We're headed to the Garden of 1,000 Buddhas in Arley, Montana. Well, in my family, because growing up Catholic could be many different things for a lot of people, I grew up in a very fundamental environment where, my mom was, I'd like to describe militant in her Catholicism, so we had a very different perspective of life, and, and I think a lot of fundamental Christian families kind of condition their kids to be real shy and, almost like this sense of needing to please others all the time, put others before themselves, which, to an extent, that's good, but you also, one important thing that I feel is nurturing individuality and confidence in a kid, and for myself, I don't feel like I had gotten that growing up. Maybe that wasn't their intention, but man, for example, we would say the rosary like almost every night, and, of course, it would feel like the longest hour of your frickin' life. I remember being told to not play with things as a kid just to distract yourself getting through it, and being told that, oh, you're gonna go to purgatory for that, and, thinking back then about that kind of shit, that's pretty fucked up. And on, it's kind of like, as an adult now, looking back, it's like, wow, can't believe I went through that. That being said, I don't wish any ill on my parents, and I love them very much, and I think, at least I hope, that they tried to do their very best from what they knew. It's cool. I've definitely forgiven them, and it's definitely given me a perspective on life, that's for sure. So yeah, it was very important for them to make sure me and my siblings were Catholic, warriors for Jesus, whatever. As you grow up in your angsty teenager age, where you're trying to find who you are, we would try to, burn CDs from friends and, family, and we'd hide them under our beds and listen to them when, mom and dad weren't around, and it's crazy, like, you kind of feel like you have to have contraband growing up. So yeah, it's like, I guess what's ironic to me is their approach in trying to teach their faith to their kids, when it's just like, if you guys would take a basic psychology class, force-feeding anything, whether it's, Christianity or atheism or whatever, anything force-fed is going to be rejected. So yeah, my father's a devout Catholic. He wasn't as, not quite as vocal and forceful as my mom was growing up. More passive, where, he would just make sure we made it to church every day, or not every day, but every weekend, have us go to Catholic schools. I was an altar boy, which I have a real sarcastic photo I'd like to show in this video. Yeah, it's a real interesting experience. Catholicism was a priority in my family growing up, and it's like you really couldn't wait till you were fucking 18, my mom was very fanatical. My dad was devout, but less. Let my mom do all the yelling, let's just put it that way. Yeah, and he just made sure we made it to Mass, Catholic camps during the summer, or being an altar server, all that stuff. We try to pretty much make sure our environments, most of our environments that as kids we were involved with Catholic people, in hopes to mold us the way they want. And I, as a parent, feel very strongly nurture individuality, and letting a kid kind of grow up knowing that they're going to have choices as an adult, because you can't force them to have certain beliefs. And I pretty much think life should be kind of celebrated as a journey. You just teach them basic morals to be kind and not be an asshole, and, you know, kindness, consideration, you know, all those basic things that overlap with all of humanity, really. Yeah, it was a very dramatic childhood. A lot of anxiety, a lot of being afraid to express yourself, a lot of fear, of course, of the going to hell. And yeah, like, shit, I remember I went to this one Catholic camp, the summer camp, down in Southern California, called St. Michael's Summer Camp. And I remember the specific, I don't know if he was a brother or a priest, but they went by based on the order of priesthood, by Frater. You'd like call him Frater, you know, Mike, or whatever their name was. But I remember this one specific, like, catechism talk we were having, and, you know, as a teenage boy growing up, you know, you start going through puberty. Well, the subject of masturbation came up, and the idea of masturbating was going to make you go to hell. So, of course, it's just like going through puberty. I had already done that, and it had scared the fuck out of me. I'm going to hell every time I masturbate. Oh my god. And then, of course, like, the urge of needing to do that growing up. I think that, like, I'm going to be going bankrupt, you know, in the eyes of the Lord, and not make it into heaven. So, of course, thinking all this stuff very seriously at the time, I am just feeling like I'm in this dilemma. Like, I've ran up a credit card, or a few credit cards, and I'm in so much debt, and, you know, God's mafia is going to get me when it's time to be 6 foot under. I can't bring myself to go tell the priest every time I go to confession to confess that I have masturbated. I could not bring myself to do that. So every time I would miss, or every time I would go to confession, because we would go to church every weekend, if not more, I felt like I had another mortal sin under my belt from not confessing it. And it got to the point where I got so anxious that I finally snapped as a you know, getting into my older teens into this. Like, fuck this. This can't be reality. Like, how in the world am I supposed to worship a God that is going to punish me for this? Like, finally, yeah, it's just the anxiety and stress of it just finally snapped me into reality. And thank God I actually reached that point, because who knows how else the situation could have ended. Like, but holy fuck, man, I don't even think my parents even realize how much stress that puts on kids and whatnot, and I hope for their sake they thought they were doing what was right. I mean, why wouldn't they? But that's nuts. That's nuts. You know, music was my big escape. Music and, like, playing video games in my room. I mean, just trying to find that other reality to escape, because everything else around you sucked. We'd get scooped up from our Catholic school and go straight home. So any after-school programs I was never really let to join in, and that sucks, because I really probably would have loved having a social life. So, you know, older teens, I got sent to boarding school. One in Atchison, Kansas, which wasn't so bad for boarding school, because I got to have a computer in my room. They fed us with a cafeteria. It was pretty modern, you know, pretty much normal people there.
Pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much, right? You know, not fully doused in the Kool-Aid. I didn't like just the fact that I had to be in Kansas, you know, in a boarding school, you know, anyways, but, you know, gosh, Atchison, Kansas, that place has, like, when I was there, like, hardly anything, like, what was it, a McDonald's and a Walmart nearby, and total different place from San Diego. My first introduction to living in a snowy environment as well, and holy shit, man, it was really cold. But living in Montana, I wonder if it's really as cold as I thought it was then. So yeah, I got through that half the school year, and told my parents I hated it, tried to make it sound terrible. Oh, kids were smoking cigarettes. You don't want me around that, Dad. You know, I thought I wasn't going to be going back. Well, at the end of that summer, last minute, and I know my dad was being passive-aggressive, not trying to get us all whooped up and stuff, but, oh, you're going to another boarding school in Moscow, Pennsylvania, which is located, like, under Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Whoop whoop. Scranton.
And, oh my God, this boarding school is the real deal. It was like driving up to a Catholic Hogwarts, listening to all the frogs and crickets, like total different environment from San Diego, and this huge brick building. This was an old orphanage once, and boy, as soon as I saw that extremely bloody version of Jesus on the cross, like, you see some pretty tame ones and you see some pretty gruesome ones. This one was as gruesome as they came, you know, at that front door. I knew, oh God, this is a whole different ball game from the last school, and I'm gonna be here a whole year. Fuck. My younger brother actually was coming with me on this particular one. The last one I was by myself. Yeah, meeting these kids, it was like all of them were extremely sheltered and I would say conditioned, but very devoted Catholic kids. And what was it, like 8 kids to a bedroom, 4 beds per side? Oh God, man. Jesus Christ. And I had snuck CDs there thinking, oh, okay, well, this will be my outlet. This will be my outlet. No, you know, like, it took them, what, a day to dig through my dirty laundry, because this is like a normal protocol with new kids. Oh, they're hiding something. Well, they were right. They found my CDs, my Metallica. Loved Marilyn Manson at the time. Man, he was very, not Catholic. Yeah. They found our CDs once. There was this one day where, coincidentally, my brother and I carved with, like, our fingernail on a shower wall. Same day, I did a pentacle. He did 666. Geez, what was in the stars that day? Yeah, I got called into the headmaster's office, and I'm thinking, oh fuck, I bet I know what this is about, because they suspected which kids would be responsible for this, and they were right. Well, I see my younger brother in the office there, and I'm thinking, oh, what the fuck did you do? Anywho, the headmaster's like telling me how grotesque he thinks that music was, and you know how he's gonna send us to some even worse military boarding school from our parents. But yeah, pretty fucked up. A lot of stress in my family, and you know, of course, I feel like an outlet as a child was eating a lot, and I didn't learn the basic facts of nutrition and self-care, and with the anxiety of growing up in that environment. And I feel like my mom was anxious too, with all the yelling and not great dietary practices she had. So of course I picked up a lot of the same things. But you know, I was a very hefty kid. I pretty much binged eat. It's probably a comfort thing, if anything, and control thing. Yeah, I ended up being 320 pounds as a young adult, and holy shit, that's a place in my life I never want to be ever again. Like, ever. Was my own personal hell. And I found out that, oh god, excess skin. I thought this was going to come back. Well, no, it's not as elastic as we think. So, lo and behold, I managed to get cosmetic surgery by using school loans in college, and it was definitely worth the risk. And now I'm working out and weight training, and it's been one fucking hell of a journey. So, respect your body. Spirit. It's very mushroomy.